a bunch of emails here, rad@radradio.com. We got Steve Mikkelson in the studio with us, which prompted this response from Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl.
Says, no. Steve doesn't sound right when he's in the studio with you. Can you have him go to Rob's office and call? Jamie says, why does Steve sound so much different in the studio than on the phone? I heard him start talking. I thought, that's not Steve. I can't be the only one who's thinking this. Honestly, if I called in, you would be like, that doesn't quite sound like Rob. It's amazing the difference that people don't realize between the phone.
But you know what's weird? I hear Steve the same way.
Yeah, but that's because we know him.
I think that's got to be it.
Yeah, we know him in person.
I'll tell you on my end, the music is much better in studio than the music I have to listen to on my phone.
I bet. Greg says, Steve sounds so great. This needs to happen more often. Well, Steve's got nothing else to do. Enrique
Hola.
Brandon's part Mexican.
says, hey, if Steve wants a job, he can come help me wheelbarrow some concrete tomorrow.
Ooh.
Interested? He says he'll provide breakfast.
It sounds good. My wife, I've gotten pretty good wheeling that wheelbarrow around the backyard. I had to haul rocks and dirt, and we'll just add some cement.
This is an actual sports email from Junior.
Hi, Junior.
Says, Steve, due to the pandemic, the NFL has eliminated the preseason and made training more difficult for teams. How big of an effect will it have on teams with less consistency around them in terms of players and coaches? Let's start with that, because that's one of the things when you were pointing out they're not even necessarily working out together. How's this going to come together on the field, assuming we have a season?
Yeah, I think the first couple of weeks, you're going to see a lot of mistakes.
We get bad football.
Yes, you're going to. It'll be your talented veteran teams are still going to be very good because they're professionals. They show up, they do it. But when you get these young teams that haven't really played together, if they got a lot of turnover on that roster, as we mentioned earlier, the loss of the preseason games, there's a lot of guys trying to fight for a job that aren't going to have that opportunity. They have to prove it in practice, and if their number on their helmet's 107, they're really not going to have a chance at making a roster where they might be able to make something happen in a couple preseason games. So the first couple of weeks, I would look at the veteran teams that have played together, and this is where Tom Brady is a veteran, but how much has he really played with his receivers running back to be in sync?
It'll just be him to Gronk the whole time.
Right.
They played together.
Exactly. They know what they're doing, but the rest, we'll catch up in week 3 and 4.
So that kind of maybe leads into the answer, that because a lot of people are writing in and they're wanting predictions. And predictions are so hard with everything that's going on. So are you saying you would lean towards look to the teams that were already good and they're probably most likely to stay better?
Yes, I would look to the teams that do not have a lot of change. The Kansas City Chiefs, pretty much the same roster. And really looking at the skill positions. You get a team like, sorry to go to my Detroit Lions, that overhauled their entire secondary, which wasn't any good to start with. So I'd like to believe they can't be worse. They're bringing in a new running back, new wide receiver. So when you look at those teams that are bringing in a lot of players, and again, they need to because they need to rebuild, those aren't the teams I'm looking to be effective in the first couple of weeks.
So then where do the Raiders fall in that? 'Cause this was going to be a breakout year for the Raiders, maybe a playoff year, but still?
I like the Raiders. I think they're a really talented team. I just think it might take a few weeks to get in sync. And there's still that question with Derek Carr. Is he going to be Gruden's quarterback? Mariota now is the backup. He was signed. So where Mariota had a shot to win the starting job, there's no preseason games. There's no way he's going to win the starting job. It's Derek Carr. And maybe Carr shouldn't be the starter. So those are things you're going to find out in the first couple of weeks.
Do you put the Niners up there with the Chiefs as since they were the two Super Bowl teams going in?
Yeah, and I know last year it took me a long time to get on the 49er bandwagon. It did, but you look at the start of that season, they're playing the Dolphins. They're playing a lot of weaker teams.
You still hate Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, and they didn't win the Super Bowl. They didn't.
I don't hate Garoppolo. It's just he has this tendency in certain situations to make that pass that you just shake your head and say, what could he possibly have been thinking there? And sometimes it's dropped and it's incomplete, but other times it's the interception. And then the Niners, puts them in a bind. But the defense, unbelievable defense.
So you just reminded me. I hope I can describe this right. You and I have a loathing hatred of Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
We share this. So the Vikings, because everybody's looking for a way to have fun these days, right? The Vikings launched this thing where they released a video of Kirk Cousins throwing a pass, and they said, okay, now you do a video at home of catching the pass. So people would send in the video, and then the Vikings would put it together. And so you see Kirk Cousins in split screen. Kirk Cousins drop back, and he throws it. And then on the other side of the screen, here's this guy in his backyard. You don't see his friend throwing the ball, and he catches it, touchdown or whatever. The one I saw, though, that was retweeted the most was the guy in his backyard. Kirk Cousins drop back. He throws the ball. The guy's in the backyard, and the ball goes 14 feet over his head. Nowhere close to him. I'm like, that's Kirk Cousins.
That is awesome. And that's a Vikings fan who understands Kirk Cousins. If they're down 27-7, he'll complete that pass every time.
Yep.
But if it's the last drive, and here it is, they need to kick a field goal even to win.
Oh, here.
Not a chance.
I got to do this real quick because this is actual news. So the team formerly known as the Washington Redskins announced yesterday they have decided that they're going to call themselves the Washington Football Team for this season.
That's terrible.
Because they have to continue to work on replacement names, logos,
What the hell?
trademarks. So they will keep their burgundy and gold color scheme. The Indian head logo on the helmets will be replaced by players' jerseys, numbers,
That's a mouthful.
etc. It's part funny. It's all we're just the Washington Football Team. I think it's more about they are trying to figure out what can we do that's safe. Do you care about any of this?
I found that the Washington Football Team story interesting because I was talking to my wife about this, and I said, they're not going to announce what the nickname's going to be until they've locked up all the trademarks and everything else that comes with an NFL team, so they own all the rights to it. And they were supposed to announce it like last Monday or whatever it was, and then they didn't. And I said, I'll bet you they just haven't been able to secure the rights. Then a story came out that some guy who's a Redskins fan has locked up like 20 trademarks. He's locked up the Washington Monuments, the Warriors, the Red Tails,
Everything
for the last 20 years because he figured at a certain point the name's got to go away.
Smart.
And then he owns it, and they have to come to him. So
wow,
the fact that they
smart.
haven't announced anything leads me to believe that the guy wants a substantial amount of money for the rights to it, and Daniel Snyder has not been willing to pay that to this point.
Ironically, though, this is going to work out a little bit in Snyder's favor because collector people are going to go nuts on this year's jerseys because they're going to believe it's the only year that there's going to be whatever the Washington Football Team's jerseys are, and you're never going to get them again. People are going to buy them, they're going to frame them, and then they're going to resell them in 5 years or try to resell them in 5 years.
I'm just hoping sports doesn't go there like soccer. They're suddenly the United and the FC, the football club for Washington. So I'm hoping they don't go that route. Soccer does it, and that's great. I just don't want to see other sports start going that route.
And we've been joking on the air. Where does it land? Does it land with every team's a number, or is it just the San Francisco Football Team? We need our identities,
absolutely,
in some way.
So the guy you mentioned from Washington, is that the owner that's unwilling to pay?
Yes, Daniel Snyder.
So the risk that guy is running is if they do come up with a name that's outside the 20, he lost out on something.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they offered him something, but we don't know the numbers.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, you know what? Actually, I don't know.
Insult.
Steve, you agree with this, Steve? Daniel Snyder, the book on him is, it's very possible he hasn't offered that guy anything because he is so arrogant. I bet he's like, we'll find another name. We don't. Fine. Those are the 20 most popular. I'll figure something else out.
Absolutely. And from the article I was reading, I believe he snagged everything that has red in it because he knew Snyder would never change the colors. So he has like the red tails, the
red boars,
everything with red, along
red
with
wolves.
the Americans, the Warriors, the Monuments, the ones that
anything in DC, the senators, all of that.
Yes,
that they could get, or the diplomats. I've heard everything you can create.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I don't think Daniel Snyder's offered him a penny.
And I bet he's probably the one that said, fine, we'll just call it the Washington Football Team for the year.
Neener.
He does seem like that. We got this email that says, with COVID in the NFL, this might be the most realistic year for the Browns to win the Super Bowl. All right.
That's sad. Even the Browns are getting nods to win the Super Bowl over my Detroit Lions.
And how sad is that if it were the Lions or the Browns finally and it's the worst Super Bowl ever? Who's going to be there? How's that going to look?
I will be there because I've told my wife my whole life, if the Lions ever make it to the Super Bowl, I am going. I don't care the cost. I don't care anything. I am going.
So somebody wrote in earlier this week, though, and this brings us back to the stupid world we live in, and asked about what will the Super Bowl look like. And we don't even have the ability right now to predict, will there even be fans? I mean, you would presume it's supposed to be in Florida. Of course, it's light years away in terms of COVID land, but right now you view it through today's Prism hotspot, all that. It's going to be travel. How many people are they going to let travel? It's impossible to even guess.
Or another scenario that COVID rips apart a lot of the teams so that there's not enough to qualify for a Super Bowl to even take place.
Which at that point, you don't really have a season. I mean,
I hear that. And the first thing I immediately think of is Major League Baseball expanding the playoffs to 16 teams. So maybe they could get 2 teams at the end of the season in order to play a World Series.
My God.
We're going to qualify everyone in hopes that we have somebody standing at the end.
So there's one of the things that's been batted around, too, and again, we're all waiting to find out, is the possibility of the NFL delaying the start to October and then playing a 12-game season, which I presume that decision is based not entirely, but a lot on how baseball, basketball, and hockey do over the next 3 weeks.
Absolutely. I think baseball, basketball, and hockey are the test leagues. Here you go. Let's find out how it goes. If things go poorly, then they're going to delay the NFL season. But if things go good, and the way I've always seen it is they want to get the football season going because they're fearful that when we hit November, et cetera, there might be a whole bigger return than where we're at now.
Plus the flu.
Right. So they're going to have a higher risk of canceling late in the season. So the faster they can get the season up and running and going, the more likely they might be able to finish.
The thing, we're schizophrenic, being in the heart of this, because on one hand, we've been spending the last 5 months just cautioning people about getting their hopes up. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, the NFL, of all of them, it's a $15 billion animal, and it is America's true pastime. I think the devastation level of the NFL not making it work would really be bad for the psyche of the country.
Oh, absolutely. We need sports. We need something that's hopefully not too political, that we can just sit back. I'm a person, I just love to just watch the games, and I think last time you had me on, it's scary, but I watch the old baseball games.
Mm-hmm. The reruns?
And I'm watching it, and I'm watching the Bucky Dent. And I'm a Red Sox fan, and I'm like, come on, I know exactly what my wife just shakes her head.
Is it 76?
Like, 1978, sorry.
78, okay.
Yes.
Oh, my.
And I'm just sitting there, and I know the outcome, but I get sucked into being the fan because we're not watching anything, that I'm just watching it, still cheering for my team. I know we're going to lose.
Hey, man, this was true before COVID, but it's even more true now. I still get nauseous every time I see Dennis Eckersley throw that pitch to Kirk Gibson.
Yes.
All right? It's just, you don't overcome some of these traumas. And so
But do you watch it hoping, as you're rolling in that ninth inning, when he gets the first out, that maybe this time
maybe
he can get the pitch past him. He'll throw a fastball, not the slider.
Not the backdoor slider. Don't
it
do
just
it.
goes with the season. Obviously, I'm not invested in sports like you guys are, but for me, I've mentioned October to December, my favorite time of the year, and sports is a part of that. Whether I'm watching it or not, it's my husband is. It's on in the background. It's like someone saying Halloween, Thanksgiving, or Christmas is canceled. Yeah. Not happening. That wouldn't be the season. Like, all those things have to come to play to get that feeling that we all get for whatever reasons during that time of year.
Absolutely. Back to when you're a kid and the leaves are falling from the trees and you're throwing the football around in the backyard. I mean, just
it matters.
Right. It's fond memories you've had growing up through your whole life.
Can you imagine Thanksgiving without football?
Come
on.
Weird.
I mean,
that's the one game every year the Lions, maybe they got a shot to win, and the whole nation's got to watch them and just shake their head saying, why does Steve keep rooting for them?
One sport has been around for a couple months, and have you watched any golf? And did you watch Tiger play when he came back?
I've watched a little bit of golf. I'm not a big fan of watching golf on TV. It just, it does.
It's that paint drying effect.
Yeah.
I can only watch when Tiger plays now, which is still, it's exciting enough to me because, hey, he's an old guy and maybe he can come back.
But that's everyone. Tiger's effect on golf and viewership and sports betting. I mean, when Tiger is playing well, sports betting on the golf events goes up by like 1,000%. It's not even close.
Dang.
So we all want Tiger to play well.
So what about this? We announced this story yesterday towards the end of the show. Mike Tyson is going to fight Roy Jones Jr. in an 8-round exhibition bout on September 12th. They won't wear headgear. They'll be using 12-ounce gloves, which are larger than normal. Tyson's 54, hasn't fought since June of 2005. Jones is 51. His last fight was in February of 2018. Everybody knows Tyson, youngest heavyweight champ of all time. Jones was world champ in 4 different weight classes. The fight will be available on pay-per-view, and that's, I use Tiger as the lead into that because the whole idea of it is here are these guys in their 50s getting into the ring, no headgear.
That is crazy.
What do you think, Steve?
The sad part is, and I don't think I'm alone on this one, I loved boxing in the 70s and 80s up until Tyson lost to Buster Douglas.
That was it.
Boxing has never been the same from that point. I'm actually hoping Tyson looks really good. I would love to sit down and say, Mike Tyson, the oldest heavyweight champion of all time. And I know I'm not alone in that, and I know it'll never happen. But for so many people, boxing has never been the same, never had the same excitement since Mike Tyson fell from the top.
Yep.
Well, and no matter how much either one of them, and I don't know, has stayed on top of their fitness and their being athletic, they're not going to be as fast or as strong as they were when they were younger. It's impossible. So how
But it's
fast are
relative.
they going to be moving? And
Are they
their
fast
feet?
is all you care
But
about.
we all want it. We all have those fond memories of Mike Tyson when he was the destroyer when he was young.
And this all goes to the whole point Tyson's doing it. He's also launching something called the Legends Only League, which will feature not only boxers, but baseball, basketball, and soccer players. The idea is, here's what Tyson says, quote, everybody who decides to say they're too old, they're over the hill, but has it in them, come with us, get your agent, get your manager, and you'll live your glory years for a second time. This is that whole thing. Guys can't let go, especially those of us that are athletes. Can you imagine a one-on-one game between Michael Jordan and Clyde Drexler or whatever they want to do? I mean, there's an appeal to this that people will watch.
There absolutely is, as long as they're still pretty good.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't want to watch George Foreman go fight and can't even hold his fists up.
Understood.
Type of thing. And I get sad when I see old ball players and they throw out the first pitch and they, this guy was a pitcher and he has a hard time even throwing it to the catcher. Those make me cringe because that's not what I want to see. So I like it, but I'm skeptical. That's
my problem with it. If this was just regular guys that decided to form their own league, because who cares if we're this old? I think that's great and inspiring. Not when they were former greats and professionals. You go out great. You go out on top. It saddens me almost.
No, it's got to be the top level guys. But like you brought up, we've seen the videos of Tyson. He does still look amazing. You don't really think Michael Jordan doesn't know how to play basketball still, in a way that makes you go, he's still got it. Because you naturally add in he's 55, but he's still Jordan.
No, I agree with that. But Charles Barkley.
Well, no, he can't play. No.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Barkley.
There has to be a quality control system.
Correct. And that's the sad part is I still have the memories of Barkley, and then to see him, look, he can't even make a 15-foot. And maybe he can. That would hurt to watch.
Yeah.
We're out of time.
Oh, that felt like it was 5 minutes. That's how fun it was.
Let's stay another hour. Come on.
The end of the show? Steve, thank you so much.
So awesome.
Thank you for having me. It is wonderful to be here and see everyone.
We're so happy you're here.
We would love to do this with you more if there's some way to work it out physically. But no matter where you are, we're going to have you on if there's an NFL season every Friday and every Monday.
And I appreciate that. Right. And even if I get a job, I'm going to work it around that.
All right. Thanks to Steve Mikkelson for joining us. We will be back on Monday.